You know, the respiratory system is just an incredible piece of biological engineering. It's doing everything from bringing in oxygen to regulating your blood pH second by second. So in this explainer, we're going to break down its amazing structure, its many, many functions, and the elegant mechanics that literally power every single breath you take. So, let's start with a really cool fact. Your lungs can actually float on water. I mean, think about that. They're the only major organs in your body that can do this. And why? Well, it's because of the millions of tiny air sacs that stay filled with a bit of air even after you breathe out. This makes them less dense than water and really hints at their whole purpose, this unique air-focused design. And the scale of this system, it is absolutely staggering. If you could somehow take the entire gas exchange surface of your lungs and lay out flat, it would cover a tennis court. A tennis court. This massive area is what makes gas exchange into your bloodstream so incredibly efficient. Now, check this out. From the moment you're born to when you're an adult, your lung capacity just explodes. A newborn's lungs hold about 150 milliliters, but that increases a whopping 23 times to an adult average of around 5 or 6,000 milliliters. It's this incredible growth that has to happen to keep up with the metabolic demands of a growing body.
Okay, so now that we have a sense of the scale, let's actually map out the system's architecture. We're going to follow the path a single breath takes, all the way from the outside world right down to where the magic happens.
So let's trace that path. Air comes in through the nasal cavity, where it gets warmed up and humidified, super important. It then passes through the pharynx and into the larynx, which, is your voice box, but it also protects the lower airway. From there, it goes down the trachea, or windpipe, which splits into the two primary bronchi. And these just keep branching and branching until they end in the alveoli, these microscopic little sacs where the real gas exchange occurs. So anatomically, we like to divide the system into two parts. You've got the upper respiratory system, that's the nose down to the pharynx, and its main job is really to condition the air you breathe in. Then there's the lower respiratory system, from the larynx on down, which handles actually moving the air and exchanging the gases. And this division is really important in the clinic because infections are often classified as either upper or lower respiratory tract infections. We can also think about it functionally, splitting it into two zones. First is the conducting zone. This is basically all the pipes and passageways that just transport, warm, and filter the air. Then you have the respiratory zone. This is where the action is, the place where gas exchange actually happens, mainly in those tiny alveoli. The structure here is totally different. It has to be, to allow for that rapid diffusion of gases. All right, so we've mapped out the what and the where. Now, let's dive into the why. What are the system's crucial jobs, and how does it defend itself? This is all about its purpose. It's easy to think it's all about getting oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. And yeah, that's the main event. But the respiratory system is a true multitasker. It's also vital for regulating your blood pH, it's how you speak, it's responsible for your sense of smell, and it's a critical barrier against all the stuff you inhale. And that pH regulation, it is absolutely critical. It's all governed by this bicarbonate buffer system you see here. By just changing how fast we breathe out CO2, the lungs can almost instantly adjust our blood pH, keeping it in a super tight, healthy range. It's why a change in your breathing pattern can have such a huge and immediate effect on your entire body. So how do the airways stay clean? Well, they have this brilliant self-cleaning system called the mucociliary escalator. Basically, special cells make this sticky mucus that traps dust and junk. Then, these tiny little hairs called cilia all beat in sync to push that mucus upward, away from the lungs. You then either swallow it or cough it out. Pretty smart, right? But what about the deepest part of the lungs? You can't have sticky mucus down there. It would get in the way of gas exchange. So that's where the final line of defense comes in, alveolar macrophages. You can think of them as little guard cells, or dust cells, that are constantly patrolling the surfaces of the alveoli, literally eating any bacteria or particles that make it that far down. Okay, we've got the structure, we've got the functions, so how does it all work? Let's look at the engine that drives this whole thing, the physical mechanics of how we breathe. So when we talk about respiration, it's really three separate things. First, there's pulmonary ventilation. That's just the physical act of breathing air in and out. Then you've got external respiration, which is the gas exchange between the lungs and the blood. And finally, there's internal respiration, where that oxygen gets delivered from the blood to all your body's cells. And this is how it all connects.
The mechanical act of ventilation is what sets up the pressure gradients for external respiration to happen in the lungs. And that, in turn, allows the cardiovascular system to do its job and support internal respiration in every tissue of your body. It's this beautiful, continuous, integrated loop.
The physics of breathing boils down to one simple, fundamental rule. Air moves from high pressure to low pressure. That's it. The entire muscular effort of breathing is just about creating these pressure differences between the atmosphere and your lungs. Now, here's the key thing to remember. You don't actively suck air in. Instead, breathing in is an active process of creating a low-pressure zone. You expand your chest, which increases the volume of your lungs. And thanks to Boyle's law, when volume goes up, pressure goes down. Once the pressure inside is lower than the pressure outside, air just flows in naturally. So let's break that down. When you take a breath in, your main breathing muscle, the diaphragm, contracts and flattens out, moving down. At the same time, the external intercostal muscles between your ribs contract, pulling your rib cage up and out. Both of these actions make your chest cavity bigger. The pressure inside drops, and boom, air rushes in.
And during normal, quiet breathing, the division of labor is really clear. The diaphragm is the undisputed workhorse. It's doing about 75% of the work. The external intercostals are handling the other 25%. It's only when you need to breathe forcefully, like during exercise, that you start recruiting other accessory muscles to help out. So let's just quickly recap the big points. Structurally, you've got your conducting zone and your respiratory zone. Functionally, it's not just about gas exchange, it's also about pH balance and defense. And mechanically, remember that breathing is all about muscles changing the volume of your chest to create pressure gradients. We've seen just how elegant and efficient a healthy respiratory system is. But this raises a crucial question. What happens when that delicate balance gets thrown off by diseases like asthma or COPD? Really, understanding this normal physiology is the absolute key to figuring out what goes wrong in pathology.
Comment your next topic and subscribe MedX Lab.